This is Matt Pearce. Jesus Christ gave us the goals, but Gandhi gave us the tactics. Happy New Year to all our listeners. This is Matt Pearce, and we've got Ken, our regular coordinator.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Simon is here this week. The other Simon's not here, but we've got Simon Chan, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
Who's with us this week. Mm-hmm. So there's been quite a lot that's happened over the new year, and since we were last on the show, there's been two interesting protests that have happened in Hong Kong. Perhaps I'll just briefly explain for the international audience what's happened. There's been quite a bit of news on. One was obviously the protest which happened on January the 1st, a democracy protest, which was a walk from Victoria Park and ended up at the Beijing liaison office.
Actually, Central.
From Central, right. and ended up at the Beijing liaison office in Shenyang. And the other protest, which was a bit different actually, it was happened just before New Year. It happened on the 27th of December at the Lo Wu checkpoint, and that was a smaller group of activists staged quite an unusual demonstration to a protest actually through the checkpoint, and that was directly to do with the case of Liu Xiaobao, who was the mainland Chinese activist who was imprisoned on Christmas Day, actually,
right.
For 11 years, and he was thrown in prison for what the authorities in China called subversion, and that case we're going to talk a bit more about perhaps later in the show, exactly because obviously that was quite a big story worldwide actually. But before we go on to that, I think it's quite interesting to perhaps talk about these two protests in the actual demonstration themselves and what happened, and so on, and just talking about perhaps because obviously some people are saying that the style of protests are changing a little bit, and there's sort of disagreement amongst different political groups, and even within LSD and other activists have got different ideas and stuff. But talking perhaps a bit about the July the 1st, the January the 1st one first, because obviously, Simon, you were actually there, weren't you? So perhaps just tell us in what you kind of saw and how it developed. Because LSD were kind of at the back, and the Democratic Party and the Civic Party were at the front, wasn't it? And obviously, as it started off in a very sort of typical Hong Kong protest, didn't it? A very sort of well-ordered march from getting to the Beijing liaison office. But at that point, then what happened then?
Actually, at the end of almost close at the end of the parade, march, things like that. The protest, okay, I must say protest. LSD was at the very end of the protest, and some of the people, actually, the high ranks of LSD members, they ask what the party members to calm, and then to what they plan is just to put the coffin in front of the Beijing liaison office. But some 80s they kind of disagree, and then they have their own actions, which kind of destroy or interrupt the plans, and that makes let's say like Christine Chan, she said in front of that office, even though there are a lot of metal fences, two layers of level fences to prevent those protesters near the office, but she still sat down with another guy, young guy, I say, long hair. Ask her not to sit down because that will be in danger of her life or things like that. But she's kind of not agree with long hair, and she yelled that objection to LSD which take advantage of the protest. So long hair was just outburst, and this kind of video clip was on the YouTube already. Okay, and a lot of people already seen it, and I was there actually. I was about like few feet away, and I saw long hair was very outburst, angry, and Albert Chan was aside of him and said, "Don't be angry," and asked him to force him down to things like that. And then the coffin was got carried from a group of LSD people. And then it was the first time that the coffin can get near to the Beijing liaison office, because like the last time, the October 1st, it was got dismantled. Not even can get close to. And this time is a breakthrough that the whole coffin, the whole thing, not got dismantled and put it in front of the office, and then a lot of the police carry that into some sort of back alley then, and I don't know then.
And this protest was a bit unusual because the organisers meant for it, including the Democratic Party, intended for it to end up at the Beijing liaison office, because normally on July the 1st ends at central government offices or somewhere, and then perhaps a small group of activists often go from there with a coffin or so on to the liaison office actually. But this one's a bit different in that regard, that it was kind of planned to go there, and obviously that was, and the police knew what was happening, the route and so on, and the police had quite a big turnout. You can see from that photo actually that they had created several lines of police officers, and were ready for it, and so on, and obviously perhaps in the Beijing liaison office were probably not happy that this protest was ending up there, and probably might be worried that there's going to be more protests ending up at this location instead of outside the government offices. And so.
That's one of the main points. Another main point which I can observe at the protest is about 2 blocks away, when we are not arrived at the Beijing liaison office, about 2 blocks away, police already blocked a road which we supposed to use that route to get near to the Beijing liaison office, but somehow the police blocked it, and then we have to go by the other way, which is a little bit farther. Okay. I must say that police using whatever they can, bracket illegally, to obstruct such protest, and that a lot of people, a lot of protesters, they're angry about how can police do that, and also there's another thing, that there are about like 2 lines or 3 lines in Queens Road West, I think, and then the police just just hold 1 line, for the protesters. The other 2 lines was empty. But there are no cars or buses to walk through by. To drive through by. So people just yell, "How come you do not open another 2 lines and let us walk through? It will make the protest walk faster. It can end earlier." Okay, this is I think they are kind of